What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the first edition of the NBA Fantasy Strategy Show with me, Zac Graham, aka Kawhisenberg DFS. Going to be talking best ball on these streams. So if you've got any, season-long dynasty questions, feel free to fire those into the chat as well. But want to focus these Friday streams on the best ball contest, both on Underdog and DraftKings. So I think you can go ahead and do one of each today. Happy you could join me on this first go round. I'm going to have some guests down the road. FTN's own Mike Randall will be on one of these streams. We'll have Team Holds Mike Zakarian on October 6th. That's 2 Fridays from now. We'll do a little home and home. So Mike will come over here and do some drafts at FTN. And then I'll be over there on the Team Hold stream later on that afternoon. Going to kick it off with a DraftKings draft here today. So we'll go ahead and jump into that lobby. And of course, as we go here, we will discuss strategy, or I can discuss some of my strategies that I've been employing on both of these sites. If you want to read a little bit more, we'll talk about it as we go through these two drafts. But you want to read about some of my strategy, you can go to ftnfantasy.com. I've got my rankings for Underdog, rankings for DraftKings, and my first strategy article are posted there from this past week. We'll go ahead and jump in. On DraftKings, you've got 3 main tournaments here. You've got the $10 entry fee, that $300K shoot around, $100K up top in that one, $44 level. That's the spin move, $10K to first in that one, then $20K to first in the high roller contest there, the alley-oop, $555 entry level there. So we're going to jump in. We'll do just the fast draft here, 30 seconds per pick. We'll see how many folks are in this lobby. Looks like I was the last one, so hopefully a couple of you were already in there waiting. That's kind of the game we play here. Unless we're doing a private league, but I'm focused on the GPP strategy here for these larger field tournaments. And since we're starting off with DraftKings, let me go ahead and drop my DK rankings into the chat. Again, these are free on FTN Fantasy and FTN Daily. There is the DraftKings link. And so let's see what we got here. Draft is loading. And I'll just say off the top, the most important thing about this DraftKings structure to me here, I've only gone through 15 to 20 drafts on DK compared to like 60 at this point on Underdog. The positional differences are huge here, especially at center. On Underdog, they call the center position bigs, which I wish they kind of employed here on DK. We know when we play DFS, we've got the multi-positional eligibility there on a lot of these guys, but it really seems like DraftKings, and oh boy, look at that. Talk about some luck to start off the live streams. Luckbox the number 1 there. You know that's going to be Nikola Jokic, defending NBA champion, finals MVP, former 2-time league MVP, Big Honey, going to get on the squad here. We'll go ahead and just queue him up just in case anything bad were to happen here. But like I was saying, it really feels like we look through the center options here on DraftKings, and I guess I can probably zoom one more time, makes it a little bit easier to see there. When you filter to the centers, you've got Jokic, you've got Embiid. Embiid was at an ADP of 4, I think as recent as last week. It should be 2. Jokic should be, in my opinion, 1.0 ADP. Embiid should be 2.0. Because we've only got these center-only eligible guys. So it really looks like they just took any player that's forward center eligible and made them only forward here in terms of best ball. And it really, really shortens the options here at the center level. I say, hey, here's UNC in the building. Yeah, man, hey, how many honeys have you landed in those Underdog drafts you and I have done together? I will certainly take it. And this is really annoying how this pops up here. And let me see, it makes me refresh, I guess. And now it screwed up the clock. This happened to me last night too. I don't know. I don't know really what's up with that UNC. I don't know if you've had any experience with this DraftKings clock kind of acting up like this. I'm going to pull it up on mobile and actually see the clock here. I think it resets once I actually get on the clock. But again, like I said, I put Jokic in that queue just in case something crazy happened. But yeah, getting back to the center position here, you go those two guys, we'll refilter at the top. And then you're into Bam and Evan Mobley and my guy Şengün and Vooch. And I do think the gap between those four centers and the next tier where you've got Kessler and Ayton and Miles Turner and Gobert and Nick Claxton, I think the gap should be a little bit closer on those guys. But if you can do, I think I'm on the clock here. So, oh, yep, there we go. Come on now. All right, here we go. We've got the clock working. We're in business here. We're in business. Yeah, the centers to me is where I'm really focusing. Like, again, you're going to have to get some luck to get one of those top two guys. If I don't get that luck in any of these drafts, I really want to get a Bam or Mobley or Şengün or Vooch, and it feels like you're overpaying for them. But with only, we have to fill that one center spot. And if you get outside of, like, Mark Williams is somebody we'll talk. He's my highest owned player over on Underdog right now. Like, outside of him and Funaki there and Steven Adams, like, it gets so dang thin. And so I want at least two centers out of this group. If I don't get one of these top two elite centers, and by the way, Embiid dropping to 3 there. So who I didn't see who was in third. I guess we can pull up that draft board. Cool Hand Evil. Congrats there. Yeah, and so there's Josh. Good to see you, JJ. And yeah, major draft. Yeah, I mean, if I don't get a Jokic or Embiid, Chris, I'm getting 3 centers pretty much before pick 100, and I know that's going to sacrifice maybe some upside at the guard and forward positions, but to me, center is paramount, and it's not dissimilar from Underdog. There's just way fewer options because of Underdog factoring in some of those players that are listed forward on DK, and I guess, like, it's not completely inaccurate, right? Like, Wembanyama is going to start at the 4 this season. Anthony Davis starts at the 4 sometimes. But there's it just makes it so much tougher. Sabonis. Sabonis is the 5. So the fact that he's at forward here, what are some other examples that we have down the way? Jaren Jackson Jr., again, I know he starts next to Steven Adams, but not having him as a center option certainly hurts. Chet Holmgren is, I don't think they're going to do they're not going to get cute like San Antonio playing Wemby at the 4. I think Chet's going to be the 5 there. So yeah, it's a little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. This is what we have to work with. So I will certainly take getting Jokic there at 1. Josh in here saying, let's see where I'm at too. 8 picks away. I will say, because of all the centers that Josh will get to that in a sec, because of all the centers that have moved to forward on DraftKings compared to Underdog, to me, it does increase the priority with which you should draft some of these top-end guards. And we've also got, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go here. You also have to pay attention to the playoff schedules on a site like DraftKings. Underdog has changed their prize format a little bit where it's not as important over there. You can use it more as a tiebreaker. But somebody here, I'm doing these streams, so I'm going to get sniped sometimes. Somebody like Donovan Mitchell right here. Cleveland has the most amount of games during the playoff rounds on DraftKings. So I believe, if I recall correctly, I've got Donovan Mitchell at 15 in my DraftKings ranks. So I really like snagging him here if you don't get one of those. And there goes Donovan Mitchell right before me. So maybe Cool Hand Evil is tuned in here. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, like, if I'm not going to get a Luka, SGA, Steph, Hallie, and the like. LaMelo. Anybody who knows me knows how high I am on a guy like LaMelo, even still. Donovan Mitchell is some guy I'm targeting there. It is a guy that I'm targeting heavily there in the second round. And looking here now that I'm on the clock for 2, I know I want to grab a guard here, and I think it's probably going to be Kyrie. If James Harden had not made those comments in China a few weeks ago, I think my pick would certainly be James Harden. But going to go ahead and grab Kyrie here. Something's going to happen with Kyrie during the season, right? But at the end of the day, I think he is the best option here left. And again, as we go through these drafts leading up to the season, did Wemby get taken right there? Yeah, he did. Okay, so I don't get suckered in. I am a little bit lower on a guy like Wemby. I could Jaylen Brown. I could Julius Randle. I do like Zion here. And so since I have the high floor of Jokic, I think I'm going to go ahead and reach. I don't have another pick for 24 picks here. I'm going to go ahead and reach on Zion because if Zion stays healthy, man, he's a top 16 fantasy asset, I think, even in this best ball format. So there's the next 2 picks. Now, sorry, Josh, just wait until I got done with my picks there. If you go elite guard, how many do you need? Into my draft with 5 straight forwards. Loved your team. Yeah, I mean, it depends, of course, on the build. Like, it's kind of silly to say, but these drafts are like snowflakes, right? You're never going to know who you're in the draft with. I know UNC and I have been going back and forth over the last couple of weeks about some of the things we see in draft rooms over there on Underdog. I have no issue going, again, if they're good values and you can use the rankings, as a guide, and you can weigh those rankings against what you think yourself. If you start 3 guards, I'm fine with that. Again, I want to target one of those elite centers. So I think I'm probably in most drafts, if I start with 2 guards, I'm going to be looking for one of those centers with my 3rd round pick. A Bam or an Evan Mobley, again, Evan Mobley being a Cavalier with 24 games in those playoff rounds. So there's no real set number for me, but I think once I get my first 2, if somebody falls, right? If you've got Kyrie Irving sitting there at pick 34, 35, something like that, and you've already got 2 guards, be my guest, take him. But I think if I get 2 elite guards early, I do want to fill that center spot as quick as possible. And yeah. See, that's the thing. I've held off UNC. I've held off on all my Wemby exposure so I can do it on these live streams. Let's see, LaMelo, SGA. Yeah, so I mean, SGA 1, LaMelo 2, and Maxey later on. Especially if you think about if the beard gets traded. Unless they bring back somebody like a Damian Lillard, right? You would think the potential for Maxey to be a fantastic value where he's going in drafts currently. Let's see where we're at. Draft board. So you see the 3 centers going right after I took Zion there. So and look, I also don't hate, I was considering maybe just going Bam there, pairing Jokic and Bam and being done with center. But we'll wait on that, obviously. So 3 centers in a row: Murray, Jimmy, Jalen falling to 3-7. That is a pretty nice value there. Markin and Vooch, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle at 3-11, also a good value. You're going to get the minutes from Julius Randle. You're going to get the production in that Tibbs rotation. And this is another thing too. Harden is one of the toughest players to rank for me right now. He and Damian Lillard. Just because there's so much uncertainty surrounding, are those guys going to play? Where are they going to play? Let's see, Josh's centers are the QBs of NBA best ball. I pulled back on my NFL best ball this year just because I've had a lot of success in the NBA side and just kind of saving my bankroll for this. Yes, maybe even it's kind of a hybrid between that and tight ends, from what I understand, Josh. Because to me, Jokic and Embiid they're very close to Kelsey and Andrews, especially last year when we were thinking, okay, maybe Mark Andrews is going to take over the top spot in terms of fantasy tight end. So yeah, I mean, I think it's nice. It's fair to say that it's kind of a little bit of an in between there. So coming up, 4 or 5 picks away here. Let's see what we've got. We've got Kyrie, Zion, and Jokic. Van Vliet, these Houston guards over on Underdog, and we'll do a UD draft after this. The Houston guards on Underdog are still very undervalued because the whole Kevin Porter situation, and we don't need to go into that in any detail. He ain't playing this year and probably never again in this league. So the fact that KPJ is out of there, any potential minutes and usage that he would have taken away from Fred, from Amen Thompson, from Dylan Brooks. Yes, Dylan Brooks, Josh. We have to look at those guys a little bit more closely. But I think Fred fairly drafted, fairly ranked here on DraftKings. John Morant is an interesting conundrum. 25-game suspension, right? So where is the right place to take him? Again, this team I have here already, I feel like I'm taking on a lot of risk already with Zion and Kyrie. Zion for the injuries, Kyrie for everything that comes with Kai. I like the upside of a Chet Holmgren here. I love my boy Josh Giddey, and I've got Kawhi. And I know I was talking about risk, and there's, of course, risk with Kawhi, but the guy looked fantastic. He was maybe the best player in the NBA playoffs through those first, 2.5 games before he got injured again. So again, just like Kyrie, just like Zion, there is a lot of risk here with Kawhi. But if I couldn't get Wemby for the content UNC, I'm going to take Kawhi Leonard there. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab Josh Giddey here over guys like Bane and Zach LaVine. I just think the upside on Giddey a little bit higher in my eyes compared to those guys. But I don't think you can really go wrong there. Scotty Barnes also in consideration. Chet Holmgren very much in consideration for me here at the forward spot. So there we go. Sorry, I should have clicked draft there instead of just making this go longer. So we'll see what happens here in round 5. This is where I'm going to start thinking about, you see Gobert, Miles Turner, Kessler, Ayton, all these centers like Nick Claxton, Brooklyn, one of the teams with the second most games in the DraftKings playoff round. So if Claxton, a guy like that, could fall to me, get my second center there. But we'll come back to the list in a moment. Let's see. Josh says, I'm going to take a couple sips here, boys, because it's a lot of talking. You can touch on where you think the biggest ADP risers and fallers are. Actually, like Brooks this year, he's gonna jack it. Yeah, that's one thing you can count on with Dylan Brooks, right? I guess we'll leave that up there. It depends on the site. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, I do think that we've seen those Houston guards rising over there on Underdog, whereas there's a little bit of a difference here on DraftKings. Like I said, I think Fred is kind of in the appropriate place right now, where somebody like Amen Thompson is way too low. He's like ADP. Let's go look for ourselves here. ADP 129.5. That's just way too low. If like you look at my DraftKings rankings, I've got him at 107, and I don't hate taking him a little bit higher. Over there on Underdog, I think I've got him in the top 100. Again, it's just there's a little bit of a difference between the two sites given the positional eligibility of a lot of these players. And, of course, different starting lineups. You start an extra utility or flex, whatever you want to call it, here on DraftKings compared to just the 6-player starting lineup over there on FanDuel. Trying to think of a couple others. I can have my Underdog ADP up over here next to me on one of my many screens here. So we can just go through and see what we've got in terms of ADP risers and fallers. Let me pull up the draft board just so I keep an eye on it. I can tell, I guess on Underdog, Josh, it's easier for me to tell you who has been moving. A guy like Scoot Henderson, I have a ton of Scoot from the 50, 60 drafts I've already done over there. Scoot has come up more than 10 spots over there on Underdog, and I want to say he's still pretty dang low over here on DraftKings. ADP of 73, 10 spots higher over there on Underdog. And I do think I fall more in line with the ADP on Underdog of 63 compared to the 73 here on DraftKings, especially with the emphasis I'm putting on guards over here on DraftKings. I'm a big, as much as I love Wemby and obviously hope that he's a pillar of my favorite team for over a decade, hopefully down the road. Scoot Henderson is the real damn deal. So I think Scoot Henderson is a guy on DraftKings specifically. Just looking at what I have up on the screen here, Josh, I'm not surprised to see Scoot jump up a few spots here. Coming back around here on the turn, we've got all of our main spots filled out here, so we can really go any direction. None of those centers fell to me. And so this is a decision point right here because, like I mentioned, once I get past Steven Adams, we're not having much fun picking other center options here. Again, when I go Jokic and Embiid, I want to get one other center, and then I'm probably just going to roll with two in a build like that. I think I'm going to risk it and think because I was the last person into this draft, I don't think any of you boys are in here. I'm going to probably risk it without a center here on the 6-7 turn and try to bolster my guards and forwards here. Scoot's going to be the pick at guard pretty easily, especially since I have Zion. Like, obviously, CJ is going to get a bump up if Zion, for whatever reason, gets injured again. So Scoot's going to be the pick here. CJ Kudlinski took, who apparently is on auto pick here, took CJ there. So let's look what we can do in terms of the forwards. Keldon is probably the other pick here. I do like Jakob Poeltl a good bit. And we can talk a little bit more about Jakob. Yeah. I have a little bit of hesitation on what Popovich is going to do with this starting lineup. I think it's going to be Jeremy Sohan that plays the 6-man role to start the season. I'm not shocked if it's Keldon. I'm going to go ahead and take, again, we're going to play to the content, UNC, and we're going to take the big body. But yeah, I'm a little nervy about that, and we're just going to hope here that, and there goes JV, auto-drafted to Kudlinski. We're going to hope. So we've got, Cool Hand Evil's got 2 centers. DraftKings Zeus has 2 centers. Dean, MP Hyde, MPH, EID, they've got 2 centers. Neckbeard takes a center. So, I mean, yeah, it is a risk not grabbing my second center there. 18 picks to go. Let's see what else we've got here. Do I set team limits at all? Like 3 max? Yeah, no, I not like, obviously we don't have a function where we can actually limit how many, I don't think you can even do that if you're auto drafting, right? You would have to just use your manual ranks there. There is no way I'm drafting more than 3 players from any team on a best ball roster. That may even you might have to reach to do that, like on some of these guys, because there's just not that many viable options from each team. But yeah, I mean, it depends on the team. It depends on the players. I don't hate if you've got Joel Embiid, right? And whether you're on DraftKings or Underdog, if you're in the last round and Paul Reed is right there, I don't hate like a handcuff of sorts, right? Because Mo Bamba is there now, but they paid B-Ball Paul, and I do think new coaching regime there as well. I don't hate doing something like that in terms of taking guys from the same team and even the same positional group, but it's few and far between. Like Jokic, I'm not handcuffing Jokic. He doesn't have that same type of high upside backup in that type of situation. I don't think there's many other guys I'm really doing that with outside of, like a Luka and Jaden Hardy, right? Somebody like that in a late round. That makes some sense to me. Let's talk about this. If Hero gets traded to the Blazers, how does it affect my ranking for both teams? I was just talking to Mike Zakarian about Nikola Jovic. the other day. And, obviously a pick like Jovic in the late rounds, you're hoping that he gets included in a trade like that, right? Hero would certainly go up the rankings. We have to see what all is going back to Portland. What is actually, if anything, coming with Damian Lillard to Miami. So I can't say with certainty, Josh, but Hero would go up a little bit to be sure. Again, I don't know if it affects Hero as much as it would affect the ranking on a guy like Scoot Henderson. And again, I have a ton of Scoot Henderson already. Because if Damian Lillard's out of there, man, Scoot is the guy. Scoot is the alpha on that team. And again, me and Mike Randall were screaming this from the rooftops. And I know our buddy T Panthers too in the NBA Discord. I don't know if he was screaming it, but I don't know, man. Brandon Miller over Scoot just feels like a mistake to me. Scoot is that dude. If there was no Wemby, we would have been slobbering all over Scoot. Maybe not in the same fashion, but close to. To me, he was in a tier of his own. So I think it really affects guys like that more for me. I think you can apply that to guys like Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons. I think all those guys certainly get a boost with Lillard out of there. Okay, so what do we got center-wise? Yes, sir. Okay. Mark Williams is, to me, on both sites, even at this 96 ADP, a value. If you were tuned into the DFS streams last year, I was jamming Mark Williams in a lot late in the season. Man, he's 22-12 in the G League last year. Again, a small sample size, and the G League to the league is not a one-to-one comparison. But with bigs like that, Mark Williams is productive enough on a per-minute basis and is the starting center for the Hornets heading into the season. Of course, with Nick Richards backing him up. But a month ago, you could get him at 130 over there on, and we're gonna go double Hornets here. We're gonna take Miles Bridges. We're gonna put the values and principles aside and take his 10-game suspension and then roll with Miles Bridges, who was a 20-8 guy 2 years ago. I like him in the hundreds for sure. You look over in the DK ranks. Where have I got him? Bridges. I got Miles Bridges 88. So we're feeling pretty good about that value there. And coming back around for the 10-11 here in a minute. I guess, does that make sense? Josh, with the Blazers, Miller over Scoot. Yeah, man. Again, and maybe we shouldn't have been betting on the Hornets to do the right thing. That has probably paid off more often than not, betting against the Hornets over the last, decade plus. What center options after 100 do you feel like has at least some upside? Am I crazy for liking Mason Plumlee? No, you're not. Just feel like he fits better in this offense for the Clips. Yeah, I think ideally the Clippers would, play small ball like they wanted to, like their optimal lineup was 2 years ago. But best friend Marcus Morris, Nick Batum, some of those other guys, they can't really run that anymore. And Zubac was fine last year, so we can go ahead and look. Gafford is fine. I like Mitch Robinson. I like a Kongwu where you have to draft him here. Again, this would be like a third center option if I'm not grabbing one of those elite centers. I will not draft another center here. After these, and a Kongwu obviously not a starter. Like Kevon Looney is fine. You're going to get a decent floor there. Derek Lively is interesting. It's still 138. Okay, I'm fine with it. He's going to have to compete with Dwight Powell. He's going to have to compete with Rashawn Holmes. The draft capital is there, but I think he may be a year away from being a good best ball asset. Naz Reid is the one that stands out to me, UNC, in that Plumlee range, because we know the upside. Even if Zubac goes out, right? Okay, then you're loving your Plumlee at the ADP of 153, right? But how much is Mason Plumlee actually going to, is he going to jump in? Because if those guys split, 48 minutes every night, are we all of a sudden getting 36 minutes of Mason Plumlee? I don't think so. But I agree. Plumlee is probably right behind Naz Reid for me. because we know that Naz Reid only needs a Gobert or a Towns out to really play that role, where we know what Naz Reid can do in 20 minutes out there, right? And it could be enough later in the season to be your top scoring center, I think. And if both of those guys are out, or if they somehow trade, what if they trade Cat for Lillard and other pieces? Again, just spitballing here. I think Naz Reid to me is one of those guys that late in drafts is a center I'm fine taking a shot on. A guy like Isaiah Stewart, Mamu Kelashvili, James Wiseman, they all just have multiple hurdles in my eyes in terms of getting that value that's going to the fantasy scores here on DK that are going to actually help you win a week, throughout the regular season or the playoff rounds. Nick Richards, not crazy, I guess. Hartenstein, not crazy if you're talking last picks. My guy Jock Landale. There's just, again, I think this is illustrating there's not a ton. And again, putting more weight on getting those. Am I on the clock already? Golly, here we go. Okay, so we've got 3 guards. We definitely need to get a guard here. And look, there you go. Amen Thompson will be the first pick. I don't hate his brother here either at 137 ADP. This is pick 120 and 121. Let's see what we've got on the forward side. Sohan, again, I don't hate him here. Going to come off the bench. PJ Washington, I think Sohan is going to come off the bench. PJ Washington, I would like him here if I didn't already have Miles Bridges and Mark Williams. Kelly Oubre, a little interesting coming off that Philly bench. Gordon Hayward, kind of same thing. Bobby Portis, of course, if Brolo and or Giannis are out, he can step into a bigger role there. Fultz and Schroeder, I think, both good shouts here as well. I'm going to go ahead and take the brothers here. And just the upside of Osser playing okay at the beginning of the season. I really think, and I was kind of surprised they didn't do it last year, but whatever. Bojan Bogdanovic should probably get shipped out this year. And that would open up to me a new ceiling on a guy like Osser Thompson. So I'm going to take the upside shot there. If you were going a little bit safer, Fultz and Schroeder are certainly the picks there. So we roll on. We're more than halfway through now. Scrolling down. Got 5 picks left in this DraftKings Best Ball Draft. Fultz, Portis, and Colin Sexton, who I don't hate either. In a best ball scenario, I was really high on him last year. And the Jazz just, they weren't as bad as we thought, or at least as I thought. But Colin Sexton, we know what he's done in the past from a statistical standpoint back when the young bull was with the Cavaliers. Is he the starter here? I believe Chris Dunn's still around. Of course, they drafted Keontae George. I think it's going to be a battle between Sexton and George at the beginning of the season here. And Keontae George, another guy that I do like taking in best ball. All reports kind of point to Keontae George, or the Jazz rather, being extremely high on Keontae George. Let's see what else. Kevon Looney goes. Buddy Hield. Now, apparently, the front office going to maybe we've got an update here on his player card. Shams contract extensions have stalled. Indiana has begun trade conversations on Buddy Hield. So again, Josh, you were talking about the Lillard trade, what that could potentially do for guys on Miami and on Portland. Buddy Hield getting traded from the Pacers. Of course, we would have to see what the return is back for Indiana, but that's going to allow somebody like Ben Mathurin to step into a larger role. Bruce Brown, who I have not been super high on in these best ball drafts at all. I'm not sure I have a single share, maybe one on Underdog. To me, that if they move Buddy Hield, then maybe we're talking Bruce Brown. We're talking Andrew Nembhard at the end of drafts. Obi Toppin maybe stepping into a larger role there. And of course, Jarris Walker, one of my higher owned players right now over there on Underdog. Again, some of those are a factor of where their ADPs were when we started drafting 6 weeks ago compared to where they are now. That's how you end up with more than 50% Mark Williams. But, getting Mark Williams at like 135 or wherever he was, back in mid-August. It's a little bit different from now. Still like Mark Williams. Let's make sure I don't short myself here on time when my picks come up. We had Oubre. Again, Oubre, pretty interesting to me, playing a wing role there in Philly, especially with that team could look very different in the next month or two. Horford and Time Lord and Kristaps Porzingis is a tough situation to decipher, I think, right now. Fine to grab any of those guys, kind of where they're drafted. I think my rankings have Porzingis a little bit behind his ADP. But Time Lord and Horford at this point of the draft, especially on DraftKings where we're really hurting for those centers, fine to take them where they're going. And if you need a center, if you want to reach on one of those guys, that's fine. Gary Trent, Josh Hart, Dennis Schroeder, starting point guard in Toronto now. He was another guy over on Underdog that I had a ton of because he was free. People were not drafting Schroeder. He was, if I recall correctly, like 150, 160 at some point. I think he's up into the 130s now. Lively, Sohan, Avdia, Monk, PJ Washington. I like PJ Washington in the 12th round. That's not bad at all. Again, Brandon Miller's going to muck up that wing rotation a little bit, but I still think that's a decent value. Naz Reid going, fine with that. Gordon Hayward. Let's see again. Eckler not expected to practice today. Yeah, you see Pfeiffer over there on Twitter giving us the tag and the retweet. Shout out Fife. Maybe we can get Fife out of the NFL streets for an hour one of these Fridays and get him on the stream and talking a little hoops because I know he's head down in the NFL, like 24/7 this time of year, but I miss talking hoops with Fife. All right, we're on the clock again. I did it, just talking my way until I'm on the clock. Again, I think Brooks down here, interesting. I definitely need a forward. I don't hate Zach Collins, who's going to start at the 5 here for San Antonio. My boy, Tari Eason. I think I'm going to go ahead and grab Collins. Again, like a guy like Norman Powell, we were talking about the quote-unquote handcuff type of pick you could make here. When you get Kawhi or you get Paul George sitting, we know Norman Powell, ups his game and his fantasy output. What do we got on the guard side here? Conley. I like Mike Conley a lot. Again, he's a guy that has risen, especially on Underdog and ADP. I know he's not anything super exciting, but it's still Mike Conley, even in his advanced age. This is a guy starting right now for Minnesota. The fact that you can get a guy like that in, what was that, the 13th round that we just went through? Yeah, 13-1 Mike Conley. Feels pretty good to me. Shout out Kudlinski for auto drafting, getting Kevin Porter out of there. Isaiah Stewart, Jock Landale, 13-4. So a believer in my guy Jock. We all know he can shoot the piss out of it. That's a direct quote from the man himself. So we'll see what we're going to do here at the end. We've got, 3 picks left, I believe? 3 picks left. So I'm probably going to, I'm not locked into a certain build in terms of like, I want to, if I have 2 centers, I have to get 7 guards and 7 forwards. An 8-6 split between those 2 positions is just fine. But I sometimes you like to balance it out. I just don't have any sort of set rule on I have to get this many at a certain position. So we'll see what we can do here. Again, if you were looking for a late center, Plumlee's still there. We saw Naz Reid go off the board. Mamu is interesting because the Spurs have committed, might be a strong word, but he got a contract extension, if I'm not mistaken. 1 year guaranteed, so they're not really. Is this? Yeah, so it's just the 1 year deal. But this is a guy that they wanted back in the project that they've got, kind of reconstructing this team now, luckily, around Wembanyama. If Zach Collins goes down, I don't think I see Mamu stepping in to that 5 spot. But certainly later in the season, man, if this goes badly again and San Antonio is tanking down the stretch and you're not seeing a lot of Wemby and Zach Collins has not been a guy that's healthy consistently, Mamu is the backup. They prefer him over Charles Bassey, from everything I can tell. So we'll just have to see on that. I don't hate a Mamu pick at the end of the draft. Drummond, yeah. Obviously, you need the Vooch injury there. They don't have a ton behind him. Like Simonovic is gone. I think Sanogo is their guy at this point in terms of a third string center. Terry Taylor is there. He's not a true center though. Not a center at all, even though guy crashes the boards with the best of them. Where are we at? About a round left. Okay. Coming back around, probably going to be looking to a forward here because there is, again, like I said, like when you switch over to DraftKings here, the forwards feel plentiful for me. You can get a guy like Cam Whitmore, the upside there. Look, Trey Murphy is too low, and he's dropping on Underdog as well. I know he's injured with the meniscus. He's going to miss like 15 games. And we were taking Trey Murphy at like 105, 110 on Underdog before the injury. I think 174 is too late for Trey Murphy. So the fact that I have Zion probably going to prevent me from taking Murphy here, but kid can play. I know who my favorite is here. I'm not going to say it just in case any of these fellas are listening. But I know who I'm taking here for sure. And I actually might, I think I might know both picks here. On the guard side, again, now I'm one pick away. So with the delay, I think, okay, Melton goes, and then the auto pick is Harrison Barnes. So Keontae George here on the guard side. Jarris Walker is my first pick. Getting Jarris Walker here at 168. From a fantasy person, I have questions on whether or not he was the right pick for the Pacers going forward. But from a fantasy standpoint, this is a guy that can contribute across the box score and should continue to play even if the Pacers fall off towards the end of the season. So he's my first pick. I like Whitmore. I think the case can be made for Rui Hachimura. The Paul Reed pick is very interesting here. I also think Jalen Johnson, Jonathan Kuminga as upside forward options. Those are interesting. And Keontae George, I could round out my guards here. I think that's what I'm going to do because there are more late forwards that I would prefer. But I have Jokic, and I think he's probably going to be gone here by the time he comes back around. But if I can get Paul Reed, and then I'm grabbing, let's say Embiid goes down. Well, knock on wood. We do not want to see Joel Embiid, the defending league MVP, go down. The game is better when he's healthy. But if he goes down and I've got Paul Reed, I just feel pretty good kind of, again, blocking the Embiid owner here while I also have Jokic. So I don't hate and there goes Paul Reed. Which one of you is listening to this? maybe the Embiid guy grabbed him. Was it him? He did. Who's Cool Hand Evil? Where are you? Show yourself. See, I like that pick. He's got 4 centers as well. Let's see his guards: Donovan Mitchell, Tyler Hero, Jalen Williams, Marcus Smart, Anthony Melton. I don't hate it. Is this a Philly fan? It's got to be. All right, so Dort, Paul Reed, Gabe Vincent. I don't hate Gabe Vincent. Tim Hardaway, that's fine. Kyle Lowry, that's fine in the 15th round. Gabe Vincent might have a chance. The Lakers are going to trade D'Angelo Russell before the deadline at some point. At least I think. And Gabe Vincent might have a shot to be the starting point guard here for the Lakers at some point. Again, LeBron is, for all intents and purposes, the starting point guard when the game is important, when there's weight on it. But Gabe Vincent in the 15th there with LA, I don't hate that. Hardaway Jr. should be back this year as well. Caleb Martin feels low upside to me. That was a mirage in the playoffs from Caleb Martin. No disrespect to the man. Hartenstein like that in the 15th. Trey Murphy, Jalen Smith makes sense. Grant Williams. He's gonna play, right? He's gonna play. I just I don't see a ton of fantasy upside. Like even if Kyrie and Luka are out, is Grant Williams the guy stepping in to pick up a bunch of fantasy points for you consistently throughout a 2-week span, right? Is he going to be one of your top 2 scoring forwards, even in that scenario? Because Jaden Hardy's going to have the ball a whole lot in that type of situation. So I don't think I'm a fan of the Grant Williams pick. Killian Hayes, that's fine. Cade is back. So again, like you need the Pistons to have bad luck again in the backcourt for the Killian Hayes pick to work out. But again, you've seen when that happens, Killian Hayes has that fantasy upside for a 15th round pick. Max Strus, not going to argue at all with any Cleveland player drafted here. Again, they have the most games in the DraftKings playoff rounds. Jaden Hardy, love that in the last round. Grady Dick, fine with that. And Raptors, they might not be done making moves and they might be in trouble. Kuminga in the 16th is fantastic, in my opinion. Could be traded, could play a bigger role. I think I'm not going to say that him and the other young guys were out of line for being frustrated with the lack of playing time last year. But, he's got to come with it too and be able to perform better when he is called upon for that team or any team. Mo Bamba paired with Hartenstein, Turner, and Ayton. Okay, getting 4 centers there. Caleb Martin, Cam Whitmore for the Magic fan. We're starting to get to the point where my throat is getting really dry. How much do you dock players that miss 20 plus games on DK compared to UD? I have little Zion and Kawhi on UD, but I've been drafting more of them on DraftKings. It's kind of the same for me. I don't know. I actually think I'm going to have more Zion, and I have Zion and Kawhi on this damn team that we're drafting right now. So this may sound silly. We'll talk about UD in a minute when we jump into a draft over there. Forwards are at a premium for me on that site. So I'm going to have more Zion and Kawhi over there. But I mean, and I guess you're not necessarily talking about a guy like Ja, right, who we know is suspended for 25 games, or Miles Bridges on this roster as well, 10 games. Guys that are going to miss 20 plus games because they don't play back-to-backs. Okay, let me close out the draft here before we talk about that a little bit more. Jalen Johnson, that's going to be the pick. Atlanta got rid of Zach Collins, right? John Collins. He's in Utah. There is an absence there of forwards. Sadiq Bey, I think, and Jalen Johnson and AJ Griffin to kind of a secondary extent there, going to step into larger roles this season. We've seen what Jalen Johnson can do fantasy-wise in a short period of time. So that will round out this draft. So guards, I've got Kyrie, Josh Giddey, Scoot Henderson, Amon Thompson, Ausar Thompson counts as a guard here on DraftKings, Mike Conley, and Keontae George. I really like this team. Zion and Kawhi at forward, Keldon, Miles Bridges, Zach Collins, Jarris Walker, and Jalen Johnson, and then Jokic and Mark Williams as the centers. I feel pretty darn good about that roster. Let's see. Here's Mark. Good to see you, Mark. Late to tune in. Have to go back later. Hey, appreciate you tuning in, man. And if you have time to stick around, we're going to jump over to Underdog here in a minute and rip a draft over there. So, yeah, I mean, I hopefully won't roster bait so much over every team we draft on one of these, but I do like the one that we just crafted there. In this one, we can check out some of the other teams. So I don't know if it's really worth looking at Kudlinski, considering they were auto drafting a lot, but I liked their start. Luka, Wemby, Bam. So you've got your center done in the first 3 rounds, and you've got Luka, and you've got the upside of Wemby. I do want to go. I don't want to overlook UNC, what we were talking about here. We'll come back to that in a sec. He's got the upside of Ja. Then you've got Levine and McCollum. Maybe a little short on forwards there, especially with the risk on Wemby. But even for an auto draft, that's not the worst one I've ever seen. Embiid and Mobley for Cool Hand Evil. See, I know he handcuffed with Paul Reed there, and that's fine. I would probably pass when you go Embiid and Mobley. If you're Cool Hand Evil, I would pass on the Okongwu and Isaiah Stewart. I've got to start 2 guards and 2 forwards, and then I've got 2 more utility spots. So if I have those 2 elite centers, I'm just done. Because if let's just say in my build, right, Jokic goes down at some point this year, again, knocking on all the wood in sight, because we don't want to see injuries like that. But if Jokic goes down, I'm just not winning this league. So I'm gonna have another center in case tweaks his ankle, Jokic is out for a week or 2. I've got Mark Williams there to fill in, but I just feel like stocking up my forwards and guards after that type of a build, it just feels a little bit higher upside to me. And again, so I'm hoping to translate some of the success that we've had on Underdog the last 2 years, getting to the finals, over to DraftKings this year, especially with that 100K up top. And again, you got to keep in mind with these that doing a lot, maxing these best ball contests is, if you're on a budget, it's not great for your bankroll management, because you're locking up all these funds for almost the entirety of the NBA regular season, right? And even then, it's a GPP format where a third of this prize pool is going to the winning team on DraftKings in the $10, right? So it's just kind of like a 8-month-long GPP is what it is. And so, you don't have to be a degen like me and max 150 in each of these contests. You can absolutely just roll a few teams and still have all the fun. So let's go. Since I'm talking so much, let's go ahead and get over to Underdog here in the next couple minutes. We'll close out of this. And yeah, hey, what's up, Dello? Yeah. I mean, lucked into that one. Let's see if Underdog rigs it for me too. How about that? How much do you dock players? Is getting back into this. Just like, I think specifically, guys like Zion and Kawhi. We know they're going to miss those back-to-backs, right? If they weren't, or if we could guarantee that they wouldn't pick up a significant injury throughout this season, right? Where Zion's just going to miss the back-to-backs and he's going to play the majority of the rest of the games. He's going to be available. Where are we drafting him then? I think it's mid to high second round. And I think similar with Kawhi. Kawhi's a little bit older. We have many more seasons of frustration fantasy-wise with Kawhi. And if you're a Clippers fan, actual basketball frustration. But we saw the caliber of these guys, both from a real hoops and a fantasy perspective last year when they were healthy. Again, the first 2 games of the playoffs in both conferences, Kawhi Leonard was the best player in the playoffs. And then his knee fucking exploded again. Zion, the Pelicans were a game back, if I recall correctly, of the Nuggets for that 1 seed out west when he went down. That's the type of effect these players have on these teams, and the stats come with it. So I think where they're being drafted is pretty appropriate. So I think for me, I'm not factoring it in a ton. And there's so many guys like that at this point of where the NBA is at, so I think it's all kind of for most guys, it's being factored in. Let's jump to UD here. So I'm switching screens. We'll go to the double dribble, and I'm hoping we'll set a time here. Let's see, 12:54 here in Central Texas. So we're 50 seconds away from 12:55. So wherever you are, we're going to jump right at 12:55 or whatever the equivalent is where you're at. Let me go ahead and pull up the UD lobby. We'll go ahead and get that ready. And so as soon as I press yes here, and we'll zoom in once or twice. We got about 20 seconds here. So I'm going to jump right at 12:55 Central, and hopefully I'm the first one into this room, so we can have some competition here. And if we don't, maybe we'll do a third draft here. It's Friday. It's Friday, and I got no streams later. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and we're jumping. 2, 1. Hopefully that person that got in next to me was one of us. Still waiting on 1. Waiting for 2. 2 spots. Come on now. Who's going to get in here? There's 1. Let's see if we zoom again. There we go. Waiting on 1. Okay, so and starting to talk UD strategy here. Again, it's different. We look at our bigs. Sabonis, Anthony Davis, Victor Wembanyama, Jaren Jackson, Cat, right? All these guys, Chet Holmgren, Porzingis, all these guys who are forwards on DraftKings. Big options here on Underdog, which makes the wings here. The wings are my priority. I'm going to take Jokic first, right? I'm going to take Embiid third over Luka, but the elite wings are hard to come by here on Underdog. So still waiting for that one person. I'm assuming all of you, 7 of you watching right now, I assume all of you are in this draft. Let's see who can grab that last spot. Again, I guess I can talk about, let me link the Underdog rankings. Here we go. Updated that this morning. Had a couple friendly chaps on Twitter point out that a couple guys didn't make it into these rankings when I copied them over. So that is updated as of this morning. So like Brandon Ingram was missing, and I think Malcolm Brogdon was missing, maybe one other name. So those are there now in those Underdog rankings I just dropped into the chat. So feel free to check those out as we go here. Again, where's this? This was as of Tuesday, my top drafted players here on Underdog. And I think this was through at the time 56 drafts. Mark Williams, my number 1 drafted player here. Mike Conley, Jarris Walker, Devin Vassell, Zion Williamson, Scoot Henderson, Cam Whitmore, Kawhi Leonard, Drew Holiday, and Zach Collins as of Tuesday. Those were my top 10 drafted players on Underdog. And again, that's not necessarily because I love those guys. I do like all of those guys, especially where it's in relation to where you could get them, especially a month ago on Underdog. A lot of those guys are names that we talked about their ADPs rising. Mark in here saying, how does the sprint of a 17-week schedule affect the way you draft this year? I think it lowers rookies in the rankings because they may not help you late. Are we talking about we're talking about Underdog here, Mark? Because again, that's whether that was the intended segue or not, still waiting for one here. Do I need to? What are we doing here? Come on, America. One thing about Underdog that is a huge difference this year is the payout structure of this contest. I think I can pull it up right here. Yeah, so $500K prize pool, right? This tournament prize breakdown with $10K up top. That's your playoff round. So traditionally in best ball, right? And I think Underdog did some of this with their NFL product this season. Again, I pulled back on my Underdog, my NFL best ball to focus completely on NBA this year. You've got $10K up top to the team that comes out on top of the knockout rounds, right? The 3 separate rounds of playoffs here on Underdog. Yeah, so Mark talking about Underdog here. But you look at the regular season, $75K up top. Like, we should be prioritizing these lineups based on that, in my opinion. And rocket science, right? I know. So to me, like, I'm not throwing the playoff schedules out because, again, if you have those good teams that are competing for this $75K top prize during the regular season, you're going to advance and you're going to want to have good teams, and in the advantages of taking some of these guys that have more games during those 3 rounds. I don't think it's for me, Mark, and maybe you can tell me some of your thoughts there on why the rookies may not help you late. First of all, the regular season ends in February? Let me pull up, where's my schedules? So Underdog playoffs. So the 75K prize up top for the regular season, that's paid out like right after the All-Star break, the week after. So I think the All-Star break's right around Valentine's Day. Round 2 on Underdog takes place February 26th. So you don't typically see teams full on tanking that early. So I would say to this point, it hasn't been affecting me at all. I'm building these rosters primarily to go after that 75K top prize. And so the rookies that I have, like, some Amon, Scoot, right? And the Scoot could backfire because Damian Lillard could be there. He could play up until that trade deadline. And then the Scoot doesn't look as great, doesn't feel as good. But I'm not, okay. I was about to say there was one still waiting on one, but here we go. We're about to get the draft order. Let's see. Yeah, all we need is one. Somebody jumped in there for us. No one for me this time. So let's see. Are we back to back? Oh my goodness, look at this turn. Dello in 10th, Weisenberg in 11th, UNC in 12th. Oh man. I guess we can't be friends for the next 45 minutes or so, boys. See, Mark said, I'm chasing the regular season prize. Yeah, and that's fair. I think that's how we should do it. I do think we can still, like, you get to a situation where it's Donovan Mitchell or De'Aaron Fox, right? I'm going to take Donovan Mitchell. I'm going to use those playoff rounds as a tiebreaker there with Cleveland on underdog. Cleveland playing 23 games, and Sacramento here playing 22. It's just one game, so maybe not the best example. Let's say Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker, where Donovan Mitchell has 23 games, Phoenix just 20. So to me, that's a significant difference over that 3-round playoff period. Hey, and look, Easy B in here. Easy B, basically in charge of all the highway reconstruction here in Central Texas. I'm gonna make my traffic headache just a little bit worse. Yeah, double snipes coming. Yeah, Easy, did you get into the draft? I don't know if you're easy on underdog or not. So we go Giannis Jokic Giannis here. So I think a chalk start. We'll see if Mr. Dan Embiid. There you go, chalk start. Luka here next for me. It barely over Tatum. And this is my ranks outside of Embiid over Luka. I think are chalk. Then it goes Tatum, SGA. For me, excuse me. God, being sandwiched between YouTube jabrones. This is going to be a nightmare. All right. So Luka goes 4. Let's see. This year's draft seems bad. We may get less 10K. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're still going to get it, though, because there's going to be plenty of teams that know they don't have a chance at a title. And you're incentivized if you know you cannot compete. And I know certain franchises, you've got, the Kings last year, right, had been however many years without a playoff appearance. So I understand that certain franchises do put stock into, hey, let's give our fans a playoff series. Not only does that give us goodwill with the fans, it brings in revenue from at least 2 guaranteed home playoff games, etc. But there are going to be teams, the smartest ones, who say, whether it's late February, early March, early April, whenever, there are going to be teams that shut it down. And yeah, but the draft, yeah, there is no Wemby and there is no Scoop coming up here. I think but from what I've heard, and again, I'm not the biggest college basketball guy, outside of, in my past jobs, I had to know so much about D2 and D3. I just didn't have time to keep up with D1 teams. So bonus at 8. Okay. And Edwards at 7. Yeah. I think even still, like, that's high for Anthony Edwards. I like Anthony Edwards way more as a real life prospect right now than a fantasy prospect. And I'm not down on Anthony Edwards. I got him 10th in the rankings, right? But when he's 10th for me, I'm not going to get a ton of him. And see, this is what happens. Dello takes Anthony Davis from me. Golly, boys. Well, it's going to be Hallie for me. For me here, I I think he's just a little bit more likely to play more games than Steph. That's very close for me between he and Steph, but Hallie will be my pick there at 11. And now UNC. This is where I'm just gonna shut up when you guys are picking, because this is Snipe City here. Siakam at 12. Do not hate that. Again, there you go. UNC putting the priority on getting some of those wings. And like, so look, and I don't hate here reaching on a guy like LeBron or Jaylen Brown, but I'm gonna go ahead. I can pair guys like Steph and Hallie together to start here. So that's what I'm going to do. And again, Golden State 21 games in the playoff. Same with Indiana. So I'm not getting any huge boosts here in terms of a playoff schedule. But I think Hallie and Steph, certainly nobody should be whining about being able to pair those two guys at the 1-11 and 2-2. Yeah. And there's UNC again. Got to jam the wings early. I agree. Even I obviously didn't do it there, but it's going to be coming back around. And so I guess another thing we can talk about here, we talked about the priority of centers over there on DraftKings. If I don't hit, and I have Anthony Davis over Domantas Sabonis for that reason, I have a lot more brow than I do Sabonis. If I don't get Jokic, Embiid, or Anthony Davis in a lot of these drafts, I've been waiting. And I've been stacking up 3, sometimes 4, usually 3 bigs. Because again, on Underdog, the difference, you have you have 2 guards, 2 wings, 1 big, and only 1 flex. You add that extra flex over there on DraftKings. So if I don't hit one of those, cornerstone bigs in that first round, I'm typically waiting. And I think Wemby at 20 for an ADP it's just a little bit too high for me. Again, to y'all's point earlier, who was talking about guys who are going to sit back-to-backs. And even then some, like San Antonio is, of course, we know historically how they treat these types of situations, and they should be with this kid who is still so young and developing and a freak. We just have never seen somebody with a body like this. It's a lot of risk to take him this high. That's all I'm saying. I think I have 9% Wembanyama so far. And his ADP has fluctuated pretty wildly. That ADP when we first started drafts, I want to say was around 30. Even then, I was questionable on it. I've come around. If he drops, to the late 20s, I'll certainly scoop Wemby up if I don't have a big yet. But in the teens, it just feels like you really have to hit the ceiling there statistically with Wemby if we're taking him in the late teens. Another guy I don't have a ton of and probably should be getting some, especially at like 21, is Damian Lillard, because if he gets traded tomorrow, again, which is unlikely at this point, but if he gets traded tomorrow, where are we taking Damian Lillard? Of course, it depends on the landing spot, but first round is certainly not out of the question. And probably where we would start taking him. So maybe I need to start investing, a little bit of risk into Lillard there. Zion at 25. I like that pick. Oh, okay, so that's the turn there. So AE5 starting with Jokic, Paolo, and Zion. I'm jealous. That is a heck of a start there. Wemby 26. See, that's where I think I have him at 26, actually. I do, right at 26. So well done, PZM. Seven picks away. Triple J still available as a big. Bam. Evan Mobley. Again, those guys don't excite me nearly as much here on Underdog. Again, some of these Underdog best ball teams, the 2 teams with 23 games in the playoff rounds, Cleveland and Brooklyn. And then you've got a group of 7 teams with 22 games. That is Philly, Miami, Washington, Detroit, Sacramento, the Clips, and the Trailblazers. We've also got 8 teams, with just 20 games. in those playoff rounds. That's Milwaukee, Boston, Orlando, Denver, Phoenix, New Orleans, Dallas, and Utah. So again, these are just kind of tiebreakers. I'm certainly not trying to suggest on either site that you look at a team with the least amount of games in the playoff rounds and just fade all of their players, because if we did that, we're fading Giannis and we're fading Tatum and Jalen and Paolo and Jokic and, the Suns guys. But it's just something to keep in mind, right? Even with the new structure here. So we're coming up on the FTN turn here with Dello, myself, and UNC. Dello went Anthony Davis, and then he went LaMelo, you bastard. And we know UNC with Siakam and McCall Bridges. And you talk about people who don't miss games. There's two of them. So, you certainly don't hate that start either at the 12, the 112 and the 2-1 for UNC. Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley, Jimmy Butler going off the board here. A lot of guards still available at the top of the list here, the ADP list. We'll see where Dello goes here. Imagine he's going to grab one of these forwards, or wings on Underdog. Come on, bro. Shouldn't expect anything less. All right. This is tough here because I don't know. UNC may take a wing here. Bam's a decent value. I'm just going to go ahead just in case. I'll take Paul George. I like Cade there. James Harden, you could potentially get a really nice return depending on how that situation pans out. And you've got Bam there at 30. He doesn't excite me a ton. Cade goes off the board. I'm not sure I have a Bam share yet on DraftKings. So I think here at 38, I'll go ahead and take him. Chet excites me there. Brandon Ingram, again, we're getting real risky here with the forwards, though. Getting real risky with the forwards. I can't do it. Give me Brandon Ingram. It's a tough spot you boys put me in. I hope Dello was going to take Brandon Ingram. Yeah, here's Josh. Yeah. Dello knows how to do it. Glad to hear the shoulder is feeling better, Dello. Chet, future rookie of the year? Could be. Again, I still think the pick is Wemby. If he gets to the game threshold, that would surprise me. But it would surprise me for Chet too, kind of. I'm not surprised if Scoot takes it home. Dello goes Jamal Murray. Then Bam at 40. Stunt Money picks up Bam Adebayo to pair with KD, Trey, and Jalen Brunson. Not a terrible start there. We've got Hallie and Steph, Paul George and Brandon Ingram. And again, Brandon Ingram going to look pretty nice at, we got him at 38, ADP 42.5 right now. It's going to look pretty nice if something happens to Zion again, which is, of course, not out of the question. Oh, good. Suck it, Dello. He did want Ingram, but there's other options later. Yeah, there certainly are. Franz Wagner, his ADP has come up if we're just looking at wings. I do think Chris Middleton is going a little bit underdrafted, getting up there in age, right? The Milwaukee window could be and probably is closing. But it's still Chris Middleton, man. He's a really good player and a good fantasy producer. And we saw that even though he was playing limited minutes for the majority of last season when he was healthy. I still think getting him, there's no way I'm taking Jabari Smith over Chris Middleton. Wouldn't be me. See, and I mentioned that's another guy who's been rising steadily over the last couple of weeks is Miles Bridges. You see him at ADP 76 here on Underdog. And again, the positional differences, some of that is just going to happen between the two sites, but Miles Bridges on DK in the triple digits. I think the Underdog one is much more where I rate him for sure. Let's see. OKC is at the point where they want to get Chet the minutes. Yeah, but they're also not going to go crazy. Like they're not going to deviate from whatever plan their high performance staff has for him to both keep him healthy and develop him at this level. Also, couldn't he have come back last year? Like I'm pretty sure they rested him, or at least maybe that was just my own speculation. I don't know. Yeah, fuck, man. Harden at 47. Where's the we can get to the board here. Yeah, so PZM, Giannis, Jaylen Brown, Wemby, Harden, and LaVine. It's a pretty nice start if James Harden is playing basketball in late October. Interesting start there from AE5 at the ones. Got Jokic and Şengün, and then 3 forwards, Paolo, Zion, and Franz. If I was there at the one, I think I'm absolutely taking John Morant there with the upside that I already had built in. But we'll take it, I guess. Nick Claxton off the board to Nap. Now the real fantasy Jim Thorpe, who has Edwards, Randall, Mobley, DeJounte Murray. See, Middleton went 51 there. Fine with that. Absolutely fine with that. Oh, Giddey and John Morant. You bastards. Stunt Money, then Dello, then yours truly. Yeah. I think, Josh, if we're making comparisons between NFL and NBA basketball, I think this is a viable strategy on Underdog, kind of the 0 RB, 0 big type of build where you're stacking up 3 or 4 bigs late. Because I'm going to go ahead here and grab, woof. Oh, you fuckers. I'm going to grab Fred because I have a decent amount of these other guards in this area. Yep, I knew it. Scoot to UNC. I was maybe going to take Scoot, and then we're basically done with guards until much later. So let's see what we can do here. I've got Jeremy Grant. Don't hate that. Andrew Wiggins. Miles Bridges, a little too early for me. Could grab a big here in Porzingis. Talk about somebody who always gets hurt. We'll take a shot on Tingus Pingus here. Why not? I don't have a ton of it. He gets the minutes he's going to produce. But again, I don't have a ton of Porzingis for a reason. A little bit of a risk there. Dello going with Maxey. You got to like that. So Dello's got LaMelo, Murray, Maxey, Kawhi, Anunoby, and Brow. I think I would trade rosters with you, Dello. I don't dislike this roster. I love me some Anthony Davis in basketball. See what else we got going here. Stunt Money takes Miles Turner. Second big there for Stunt Money, who is right now Kevin Durant and nobody else at the wing. I feel like that build's going to struggle a little bit. Sweeper on the clock, Sabonis, Fox, Butler, DeMar, John Morant. Again, if with any of these teams that you take Ja, and I do have some John Morant, let me see if I can go other window here and just kind of a live look at my exposures. So that is behind. And close out, reload it. You see, I've got 24% John Morant right now. So when I have a start that I feel really, really confident in, that's when I'm trying to snag a good amount of Ja. Because if you stay afloat through those first 25 games, adding John Morant to a roster that's already succeeding, to me, that could vault you to the top of a tournament like this. Especially getting him at 56 overall. So go Jeremy Grant, Walker Kessler, Jalen Green, Andrew Wiggins. Like the Wiggins pick. Dan, PZM, and AE5 coming up. See if AE5 grabs a guard. I like the from the 4 spot, Beveridge, Luka, Lillard, Garland, Markkanen and Wiggins on the wing, Vooch in the middle. That's not bad. Jared Allen, Jalen Williams, J-Dub. Yeah. That was my debate. Again, I have like you heard Scoot pop up in my top 10 exposures. Just trying to balance it out a little bit there. Yeah, Scoot right now got 31% Scoot. Let me see if I can find Fred. I'm gonna have to scroll for Fred exposure here. Because before that KPJ shit, man, I was 7% Fred, so don't hate that. I was not getting a ton of Rockets cards. It was just a logjam there. So AE5 at the turn, Russ and Austin Reeves. So going double LA guys there, just opposite sides of the building. See, if Brown plays more power forward, do you worry about blocks and rebounds dropping or maybe point? No. It's Anthony Davis. When he's healthy, he's one of the best players in the game from a real hoop standpoint, or a fantasy one. And who's starting at the 5? They ain't playing. Christian Wood ain't starting. They don't really have anybody else, right? Christian Wood is kind of their backup 5. They've got Rui there. Jackson Hayes is there, right? No, I'm not worried about that at all, Mark. Keegan Murray, Michael Porter, CJ McCollum, Miles Bridges. I mean, because we see Anthony Davis, right? Like, what was it, 1920 or 2021? When was Dwight there? 1920. Well, they weren't starting Dwight, right? They were starting fucking JaVale. Sorry for the language. Golly. Yeah, that was... What a time. You did see Anthony, the rebounds did go down again. I just don't think... you can't play him at the 4. Yeah, we're coming back up here. Simons, Barrett, Ayton. 4 bigs go off between my... I'm kind of glad I grabbed that Porzingis. Couple options coming up here. Got Gobert falling. Stunt Money has 2 bigs. Delo has 1. Tobias Harris off the board. And he takes the big body. So we've got Gobert here. I do not have a ton of Gobert. I have a decent amount of Jakob Poeltl. In one game from a fantasy perspective, give me Jakob Poeltl. But again, I'll try to diversify here a little bit. We're getting a decent value ADP-wise on Gobert. And you guys know I'm not a huge Gobert fan, especially if you're trying to win an NBA championship, but I'll take him at 83 in best ball. So we've got 2 bigs. we'll see what UNC does here as UNC gets the Acapurdo. That's another thing. You knew UNC kind of, needed to jump up and take one of these bigs here. So we could certainly use a wing. Wouldn't hate a guard here, and UNC going Pirtle, Mark Williams. I have a lot of Pirtle, Mark Williams, the zero big route, if you want to call it that. Aaron Gordon, I don't hate. I mentioned Brooklyn. I don't have a ton of Cam Johnson yet. So, playing a bigger role for Brooklyn now, I'll go ahead and grab Cam Johnson as my third wing there. I do have some Brandon Miller. I do have some Asar Thompson, but again, I think these guys being drafted appropriately, if not a few spots high for me. But again, you look at the wings, you're starting to run out of options that make you excited to have on your best ball roster in terms of like cornerstone guys. So again, what we've been saying, you got to load up on some wings early. Dello takes Aaron Gordon. We'll go back to the board. Let's see. LeBron going to play the 4 with it. Oh, my God. Who are they trading for him, Josh? Because the Pacers aren't taking back D'Lo. Heard AD said he doesn't. He's always said that, Mark, to my recollection. And I think mine and Darvin Ham's answer are too bad. You're a center. Hero, Clay, Jaden Ivey. 3 guards right in a row. I do like Jaden Ivey is somebody. He's another guy that has come up some in the ADP over the last month. I have a decent amount of Jaden Ivey. It just, it was about as close to a nightmare year as you can get for the Pistons last year with Cade going down, etc. I think Jaden Ivey, maybe the hate's gone a little bit too far. I think getting some respect now in terms of his ADP on Underdog, but I think he's a guy that we could be looking at in a couple months and saying he was one of the better values in terms of guards in this range. Wendell Carter, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jonas Valanciunas, who it's tough to like Jonas when Zion is healthy. And Zion's not healthy a lot, so feel free to take Jonas if you need a big down in this range. Derek White, going to be the starting point guard for the Celtics on opening night. Don't hate that either. It's another guy that sometimes drops on both sides that I don't hate. Again, Derek White's probably not making you jump up and down when you draft him, but he's going to be solid. $85 on the turn here. Okay, he's salvaging a little bit. I like the Vassell pick. And again, homer, whatever. I think Vassell's got a lot of upside. Maybe even more than Keldon. I think probably more than Keldon at this point. Shaden Sharp as well. I like what 85 is doing there. Jalen Duren, John Collins. Oscar Thompson goes off the board. We'll see. I'm not going to take Amon Thompson here. And he's somebody that he started in the double digits, dropped as the drafts progressed, kind of throughout the beginning of September, and then has started to come back up over here on Underdog after the KPJ news last week. This is also, and for anybody who's been, tuned in and participating here, I want to hear your Ben Simmons thoughts. because I certainly have some. Everybody who's familiar with me probably knows where I'm going with that. But anybody taking Ben Simmons shots? Because look, man, the guy didn't play much last year, but it's a fantasy point per minute guy. Getting somebody like that. Oh, okay, Dello. Dello just made his statement by taking Ben Simmons 106. So there you go. That puts me on the clock. I don't hate a Terry Rozier here. Chris Paul, if I didn't have Steph, I think I get to do a little bit of homerism here. I'll take Jeremy Sohan, even if he's going to be off the bench. And that'll be the pick here. Bolster the wing rotation a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if later in the year we see Sohan entering that starting lineup. Maybe even for Trey Jones. Like it sounds crazy, but you could see some Sohan at point this year, I think, especially if things start to go sideways. UNC takes Amon. I like that. So I see. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and grab my last big here. I'm going to go 3 bigs. So I'm going to go Porzingis, Gobert, and Brook Lopez. And UNC grab Rozier as well. Dello on the clock with just 1 big. Suck it, Dello. Didn't even think about that, but blocking you from the Brolo. And Capella, there you go. You can see Dello with Anthony Davis and Clint Capella at the bigs. LaMelo, Jamal Murray, Tyrese Maxey, Ben Simmons. Love the guard room. AG, Keldon, OG, Kawhi. This just in. Dello knows what he's doing. Let's see. Mark said, if you heard Keldon off the bench talk. Yeah. Again, I think Sohan starts off the bench, and I think you see Trey. I think you see Vassell, Keldon, Wemby, and Zach Collins. Zach Collins is locked in. Devin Vassell is locked in. Wemby is locked in. And again, I think Trey Jones at the beginning of the season is locked in. So it's between Keldon and Sohan for me. I think Keldon gets the opening night start. As a Spurs fan, I'm not mad either way. And I'm not surprised if we see Sohan work his way into the lineup if he starts as the 6th man. And I think if he starts as the 6th man, like maybe just from a more real basketball perspective, it's exciting because Sohan is going to be out there in this second unit with a bunch of shooters. He's going to have Devontae Graham and Chetty Osman and Doug McDermott. And I know those aren't super exciting from either a real life or a fantasy perspective, but for his development, I think it's going to be good. So I'm not surprised either way, but I would say Sohan off the bench to start. Ben Simmons, Mike? I feel like it's been a year since I called Dello by his first name, but yeah, likely at the field. That's fair. I think that's probably, I'm more towards Mark's side. There's so many people, right, that see Ben Simmons and just recoil. And I get it. But if the kid's playing, getting him at where we can get him in the triple digits right now, just it feels promising to me. Markelle Fultz. I like the Fultz pick. Again, the Magic, the entire team, but especially the backcourt. Just the most log-jammed depth chart I think we have in the league right now. Get Cole Anthony out of there. Avdia and Jaden McDaniels on the turn. Let's see. I'm going for first or the 10th. Yeah, I'm with you, Dello. I'm with you. Yeah, he's just too good of a fantasy asset for in the 10th. Tari Eason, Sadiq Bey. Everybody knows how much I love my boy Tari Eason. Bojan. I like the Bojan pick, especially in the 120s. I mean, he's still Bojan. I'm pretty sure still close to a fantasy point per minute guy. He is like the veteran on Detroit, right? Like, who else do they have that's not 20, 21 or under? Yeah, I mean, Alec Burks is the other old head there. Monty Morris is there now. Joe Harris, I guess. But Bojan is the veteran leader on this team. He could also get traded too, which I don't, depending on the landing spot, might even increase his value. I was looking in the NBA Discord here over at FTN. DC posting a rumor. Per Danny Meringue? Do I know who this is? Host of 1080 The Fan, which is in Portland. So Portland radio guy saying that the rumor is the Blazers are working on a trade with Damian Lillard with the goal of trading him prior to October 2nd. So we'll see. Trey Jones, Obi Toppin, Mitchell Robinson. Who's Miles Robinson? I feel like that's a player somewhere. It might have been at the D3 level, somebody in my conference back in the day. I don't know. Schroeder, Chris Paul at 129 feels pretty damn good. It's still Chris Paul, man. It's still Chris Paul. Even if he's off the bench, 129. And here is Dello. Dello with the 4-4-2 look right now. And Dello goes Trey Murphy. I like that. That was in consideration for me. Not a lot of sexy guard options here. This is where I think I'm going to take a shot on a guy like Emmanuel quickly. The upside is not there unless there is a trade, an injury, something of that nature. Like we know that when Quickly gets that opportunity minutes-wise in Tibbs' rotation, he can be a really fun fantasy asset to have, but really nothing more than that for me. Like that's not a super exciting pick. It's a wait and see. Very much getting into those type of picks at this point of the draft. UNC goes a Kongwu, 5-3-3 build here, so maybe taking a look at 5-3-4 right now. UNC, Kongwu and Portis. I like the Portis pick here again. Brolo goes down, Giannis goes down. Makes some sense. Let's see where else we're going here. I don't hate the Colin Sexton pick here. Dylan Brooks either. Yeah, we're gonna go Colin Sexton there. The young bull on the team. And I'm done with centers. Gafford to Dello. He needed one, right? That's his third. UNC. UNC, you might be I think all of us in here like McCall Bridges. You might be the guy that's highest. Or I've seen you take McCall Bridges more than anybody else over the last 50 drafts or whatever. So we're getting down to it here. 4 more spots, I believe. 4 more picks. We'll go to the board. Gordon Hayward, Harrison Barnes go after Dello takes Daniel Gafford. Kuminga, I like that there. And you can get him almost free over there on DraftKings, which I don't hate. Pat Williams. All right, well, while we're here, winding down this second draft of the day, I don't know, man. Fire some hot takes at me. Who's gonna win the title? Who's gonna? I don't know. I guess who's the most surprising team? Do you think? 2 months into the season, who's opening our eyes like the Kings last year, or like the Jazz to start last season? Right? Remember when the Jazz were in the top 4? 2 months into the season. Anybody got some takes they want to roll out here and let us, I don't know. We'll consider them. I don't think this is a hot take. I think the Pelicans are going to be, if Zion's healthy, I think they're a serious threat in the West. Again, it's not great vibes with Murphy going down early with the meniscus, but it's a pretty damn talented roster, man. CJ and Herbie and BI and Zion and J-Val and Alvarado and Najee Marshall and Trey Murphy and Dyson Daniels, who I like. Cody Zeller is there now. I don't think I'd ever, I don't think even with Zion, even if he guaranteed me a Zion fully healthy season, I'm not putting the Pelicans in the 1 seed, but I think if they're healthy, they are a team that nobody wants to see. Dello saying Maxey and Tobias top 30 and 50 fantasy guys respectively. So I guess I'll ask you this: if they move Harden and don't get a Damian Lillard or some other all-star, maybe not even to Lillard's caliber, but let's say they get picks back for Harden, like, do those guys go even higher for you? And what would that do for somebody like Oubre? Because we know Oubre is just going to come in and try to get his shots up. Oh, yeah, Willie. Well, so is he there still? Yeah, Willie, dude, he signed with Barca. Ban. How do I ban Josh out of here? Worse pick than Darko. Yeah, I mean, those zero feel on. I mean, the guy is, if he plays, he's gonna score. He averaged 20 last year, didn't he? Again, which is not as impressive in today's NBA, but 20 points a game is 20 points a game for a guy like that. Miami sucks to start the season if they don't get Lillard, lost too much. Yeah, I think that is a very fair take. We're on the clock here as the ban Dello too from these streams. It is pretty hard not to take a guy like Dillon Brooks here, even though I have Fred. But there are other options down here that I like. So I think it's going to be Vandy here. He's still going to start there for the Lakers. Steps into a bigger role if Anthony Davis sits. I know they got Christian Wood now, but Vanderbilt a pretty good fantasy producer for what he actually is as a basketball player, which is, not an offensive threat, really. There goes Herbie. I don't know who it was earlier talking about Dillon Brooks, but I'm gonna go ahead and stack these Houston guys because no KPJ. I'm fine taking both of these guys. Dillon Brooks is gonna chuck as he always does. We'll take him at 158. 2 more picks to go. Dello here with the 4-6-3 build on the clock. I hope you wanted Dillon Brooks, Dello. Other picks here that I really like. We'll see if Dello goes Conley here, but Mike Conley would be my pick. Keontae George would be my 1B, so there you go. 7-4-2 build here for stunt money. Yeah, I don't like it. Not enough wing depth there. Not enough upside on the wings there. Like, you've got wing one sewed up Kevin Durant, right? Then you're between Tobias. Again, if you're on the Delo train, then Tobias at 81 is fantastic. And I don't hate that pick at all. But there's just not a ton of wing depth on that type of build. Sweeper takes Kevin Porter. We thank you for your service, Sweeper. Yes. He's 2-2 now, right? In terms of just painful snipes. But who's keeping score? All right, so probably going to try to close this out with 2 punt wings. Yeah, I think if I'm going a big here, my preferences would be Paul Reed, Naz Reid, and and then probably Time Lord before Mason Plumlee at this point of the draft. I don't think he's not going to make it back to me, but Mike Conley here feels fantastic. Just the floor you get with him. He's going to be solid. Starting point guard. He's going to start the whole year unless something drastic happens there with that Minnesota roster build. Grant Williams. Norman Powell went before that. Let's check out what Chip Skylark's doing here. Tatum, LeBron, Kuzma, Miles Bridges, Kyle Anderson at the wings, Triple J, Chet, Zach Collins at the bigs, Normie Powell, Trey Jones, Marcus Smart, Tyus Jones, got Jones brothers, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jalen Green. I don't hate that. You need a little help at guard probably in terms of like injuries and usage being funneled to some of these guys, but you did about as best as you could. To me, the easy edit there would be on Chip Skylark's roster instead of Kuz at 53. Like, I'm going Getty. I'm going Ja. I'm going Fred. I'm going Scoot. Guys like that instead of adding Kuzma to what I thought was a pretty strong start there. Just hurts your guard depth. Time Lord Conley goes to PZM. Wiseman and THT on the turn. Naz Reid. PZM. Giannis, Jalen, Wemby, Harden, Levine, J-Dub, Keegan, Brandon Miller, Jalen Duren, Marco Fultz. I mean, I like that team. Let's see. Mark says, surprised Clifford played Oubre so much given his defensive play. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there either, Mark. At least the Hornets weren't trying to win the entire season. Also, I don't think we have the Philly contingent in here really, but is Nick Nurse going to play, run Raptors rotations there in Philly? I see you got the Raptors logo, Mark. What do you think? Yeah. I didn't think so either, but I just thought there's a pretty clear tier break there between the upside of a guy like Dylan with how much he chucks. And I think how much he's going to play, they paid that man there in Houston. So we're coming up on the final turn here. Again, I know we do still have a promo code here for Underdog. So just to get that out there, I know most of you tuning in this draft already, you're already on Underdog, but if you haven't signed up yet for UD, you can do so. Promo code FTN, get a deposit match bonus, 100% deposit match bonus, up to $100. Plumlee and Horford go off the board. Delo, 5.63 bill on the clock. Let's see where he goes here. Odell Beckham is out this week. Hopkins will travel with the team. Christian Watson, questionable. Aaron Jones, questionable. And Dello with the final snipe, potentially, of this draft. Nikola Jovic off the board. You bastard. I'm going to really... We're going to go... I'm going to go Jaden Hardy. We're going to take that swing, and then we'll close it out with a wing. We've got Sasha Vezenkov here, former EuroLeague MVP, Alexander, so the government name there. He's in consideration here. UNC with the Malachi Branham, I think that is pretty sneaky. I'm not getting sucked into Jonathan Isaac again. Excuse me. I don't hate Koulibaly here either. It's more of a later in the season type of play. But I'll take Vezenkov. And, just you're relying there on an injury to a guy like Harrison Barnes to really get that type of role. But I don't hate that as a late round flyer. Some of the other options there, like I mentioned, Koulibaly, Aldama, you could roll. Grady Dick, you could certainly. I have some Grady Dick shares. Taylor Hendricks is a little bit interesting to me, just given the draft capital there in Utah. Didn't play Summer League, was injured. David Roddy, not crazy here. Oh, my boy Usman Jang down there just toiling away. No ADP. Dello closes it out with Suggs. I was thinking about Suggs as well when I was looking at Hardy. I have a decent amount of Suggs already, though. It's another guy. Suggs, not a one-to-one comparison with a guy like Jaden Ivey, but top 5 draft capital. Been in a tough situation. Things like that. I like Jalen Suggs at 183 for sure. Last round. Give it to me. Let's see. I think you're right about that, sir. Amon Ra expects to play week 3. Justice Hill is out. I think that was already out there. No Marlon Humphrey still. Ronnie Stanley. You know what? As a fan of a certain other AFC North team, good. Take your time. Get healthy, Ravens. Who they got this week? Is it Colts, right? I think. Jim Thorpe takes John Isaac. Good luck. This is certainly a unique team that I've had to draft here based on you guys being in this draft room. But so we closed it out. Halliburton, Steph, Fred VanVleet, Emmanuel Quickly, Colin Sexton, Dylan Brooks, Jaden Hardy as our 7 guards. Paul George, Brandon Ingram, Cam Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, Jared Vanderbilt, and Sasha Vezenkov at wing. I think that's probably I feel a lot better about my guards than my wings and the bigs. Porzingis has to stay healthy. Same with Brolo. Rudy Gobert has to not suck. Again, I got some decent value there on Gobert and really all of them. 8 picks or more behind ADP. So we'll take that, I guess. That is certainly a unique center rotation there that I've got on Underdog compared to what a lot of my other drafts have been. Let's check out some of the other teams before we shut it down for the day. Let's go. Mark, were you in this draft? And if so, which team were you? And I guess then we can find out how much shit I talked on your potential team as we went here. Dello finished with Anthony Davis, Clint Capella, and Daniel Gafford as his bigs. Like that. Anthony Davis at 10, to me, that's a slight value. Got LaMelo, Jamal Murray, Tyrese Maxey, Ben Simmons, Keontae George, and Jalen Suggs as guards. Kawhi, OG, Keldon, Aaron Gordon, Trey Murphy, Jarris Walker. Dello just drafted a roster that I probably have 3 teams that are a 2v2 off of that. In my opinion, great draft. Dello. UNC had Pirtle, Mark Williams, Onyeka Okongwu, and Bobby Portis at the bigs. I do like what you did waiting on bigs there. Again, kind of the zero RB, zero big type of strategy there. Big fan of Jakob Poeltl, what he can do on a point per minute basis. He's good. Raptors moved, Mark could probably tell you. The Raptors paid up for Jakob Poeltl last year. He's going to continue to play a significant role there. And you know what I think about Mark Williams. Cade, Kyrie, Scoot, Eamon Thompson, Terry Rozier, Karis LeVert at the guards. Love that. Siakam, Bridges, Jabari, Herbie, Malachi Branham, Bol in the wings. I think the wings, the depth is a little bit questionable. We're never going to have a team, unless we're just drafting with, multiple auto drafters. We're never going to have a team where we feel fantastic about every single pick. I do like the team. And you've got such a high floor with a high ceiling on the Siakam Bridges pairing there. In your top two forward spots. So fan of that team as well. Let's see. Oh, Bomber. Damn. Well, Mark, can you do DraftKings? Let's see. Some of the other picks. I don't know if I can pick out any on the fly here that I'm not a fan of. Let's see. I already kind of highlighted Chip Skylark's Kyle Kuzma pick there. Would have just, and not necessarily Kuzma at 53, that's bad at all, but given the construction, I would have. It was Giddy for me there, or Fred, or Scoot, or Ja. Again, Kevin Porter Jr., the worst pick in the draft, I think, at this point. It would be nice to have a feature where we can, and maybe you have this, and it has to do with uploading your own rankings or something like that. But just to take do not draft, have a button for that for a guy like KPJ. 30. Okay, nice. Well, my friends, I think we can wrap it right around 2 hours today here. The maiden voyage of the fantasy strategy show here, NBA fantasy strategy show here, drafting best ball teams on both sites, DraftKings and Underdog. Again, on Underdog, if you haven't signed up yet there, you can use the promo code FTN. That'll give you a 100% deposit match bonus, up to $100 signing up there at UD. So if you haven't yet, use that code, sign up, and then come back next Friday and jump in the draft with us. And, if you jump in any other drafts throughout the week, you may see me or Dello or UNC or any of our other friends in there, because I'm trying to get to that 150 number. That's a lot of drafts between now and then, even if you had the head start that somebody like UNC or myself did drafting back in August. Happy you could join us again next Friday, hoping to get Mike Randall. Again, 2 Fridays from now, October 6th, Mike Zakarian will be with me. Hopefully drafting 2. We'll see. Again, that's a home and home, so it's going to be a long afternoon of drafting and talking for Mike and myself. Maybe we can get Fast Eddie Fear on one of these. I don't know. I'll reach out to our boy. We'll see. Mark, appreciate you stopping by. Hopefully we'll see you here on another one of these Fridays, all the way leading up to the season. Every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern here on the FTN YouTube channel, we'll be doing these drafts. And, see, man, I got the juice right now. If I didn't have something to go run and do, maybe we would jump in another one. But once again, appreciate everybody for tuning in and stopping by. And I'll see you next week, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Good luck on NFL, and we'll see you in those draft rooms. Goodbye.